Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salailo Makudira. The time is 10 minutes past 8 Central African time. And we're going to be kickstarting the show with a very, very important conversation. The city of Cape Town is facing criticism over a controversial proposal to transfer municipal land to United Hesleya Schools. So if you don't know about them, well, they're a private institution that has come under heavy, heavy scrutiny over allegations that they encourage and even facilitate South Africans serving in the Israeli military. The Good Party's Councillor Roscoe has accused the DA-led city of placing private interests ahead of the public good and arguing that public land should be preserved for housing, should be preserved for community development, for public amenities and green spaces, rather than being handed over to private entities. And we know all of the things that I've mentioned above are things that the less fortunate, especially in the city of Cape Town, don't have access to. The housing crisis in that part of South Africa has been topical for a very, very long time. Palm also says this issue extends beyond a single land transaction. He also argued that the proposed transfer should be viewed alongside other controversial property decisions involving public assets, such as the Good Hope Center and the Belleville Velodrome. And we'll be unpacking all of this with Roscoe Palm. He'll be giving us insight on the realities of the city of Cape Town and land and transferring land and selling of land to institutions that have been criticized for their links to Zionist causes. And he's joining us via a virtual platform. Roscoe, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure having you on Salam Media. Welcome.
Good morning. It's good to be back, and good morning to your listeners from sunny Cape Town.
No, the pleasure is all ours. And I want you to just give us insight, give the rest of South Africa perspective on what you've raised concern about. What's the issue around the city of Cape Town and land being transferred or being sold off to Zionist-linked organizations?
Yes, well, the Good Party has always maintained that public land should be used for public good. And in this case, I saw an item on the Sub-Council 16 agenda that the conditions of lease of United Hesleya Schools, they're demanding that it should be changed so that it excludes the public, it excludes dog walkers, it excludes people from accessing that green space. So prior to that, they had everybody had access to that ground, even a soccer club. And 6 years into a 10-year lease of the city land, that they had been renting this prime space for a little over 1,000 rand. They decided that no, they don't like the terms of the lease. They want to fence everything off and use it as a sports field. The problem is that the city is bending over backwards to accommodate this request, and I've never come across an example where the rush to privatize the space, where others had been enjoying access to that facility, has been attempted to be pushed through. The city already has robust mechanisms for all of these complaints. For example, dog litter. For example, access. And those bylaws should be enforceable. There's no need to draw almost a yellow line around this public open space and annex it for what I think is an incredibly controversial school. Several of its alumni are credibly accused of going over to fight for the expansion of the Zionist colonial expansion, the genocide in Gaza, and the optics of this, the fact that the city of Cape Town and the school itself cannot see that this is in fact the modus of the occupation in miniature. I think it's a damning indictment on all parties involved, especially the closing of public open space and in a place where access to that is already very constrained and limited.
And I think that's very, very important to note because, public spaces and the housing crisis in the city of Cape Town, I think is one that has come under spotlight for a very, very long time now. Can you maybe give us more insight on that, just how widespread homelessness and people that just can't afford rent and would be, the perfect candidates for such land to be opened up for them, for low cost housing and similar kind of initiatives.
Yes, well, every single council meeting, the councillors are asked to vote to privatize or release land to private interest or sell land altogether. Last council there were 14 items, and it's a pattern. It's the philosophy of the Democratic Alliance run city of Cape Town. You look at the big projects like or the big auction, a grotesque spectacle of almost selling these valuable assets to private interests. The Good Hope Centre and the Bellville Velodrome shows that the city is the best friend of the developers. For example, the Bellville Velodrome issue. The deal was happened in 2009, and the developer Devmark missed every single deadline. A final legal arbitration to declare the deal void happened in 2022, and that should have been the end of that. But instead, instead of following up and with certain contravention of supply chain management policy, the city manager looked the other way. And then before council this year, the deal was passed. So it rewarded not only mediocrity, it rewarded failure on the part of the developer. Also, that Cape Town is in the midst of a very real housing crisis. And the way the Democratic Alliance run government takes people for a fool it's actually pathetic. For example, recently I've seen the mayor once again announcing the release of land for affordable housing projects. They are in the habit of announcing projects almost like it's new. For example, Founders Garden, which included affordable and social housing, was announced in 2010. It was re-announced for social housing in 2016. It was announced in 2019, and then it was announced again in 2025. Not a single brick has been laid. Woodstock parking lot on the side of the city, it was announced in 2018. Not a brick has been laid. The fruit and veg site in Ruland Street, it was announced in 2017. It was re-announced in a public ceremony in 2022. And then in 2025, Mayor Jordan Lewis announced it for social housing. Not a brick laid. Government Garage announced in 2010 as part of the city's urban regeneration project. Tertius Simmers, the MEC, the DA in the DA MEC hinted that would be announced again 15 years later. Not a brick laid. Alan Windy announced Leolop last year. He re-announced it after it was announced in 2010. Not a brick laid. Newmarket Street in Woodstock announced in 2017, cancelled in 2019, re-announced in 2024. Not a brick laid. I can go on and on. Pine Road, Pickwick Street, Salt River Market. The fact that the DA run city keep using social media and these announcements of social housing without laying a brick, they are lying to us. And it's time that there's one way to stop the lies, and that is quite simple. Vote them out. Don't have to choose between competence and your values. We can change the government, we can deliver housing, and we can stop a track record of just blue lies.
I want us to take a quick break when we come back, because I'm seeing there seems to be a lot of interest online from our listeners. They want to find out more about this United Healthier Schools and their involvement with the municipality of Cape Town. Maybe when we come back, we can unpack a bit more on that. What kind of organization are they, and why people should be wary of them getting very, very primed and very, very important land within the city of Cape Town. But we'll do that after this.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Right now, over 150 million children around the world are orphaned, facing hunger, hardship, and uncertainty. With Islamic Relief's Orphan Sponsorship Program, you can provide a child with access to education, nutritious food, essential healthcare, and a safe home. Your sponsorship is not just support, it's hope, security, and a brighter future. Be the reason an orphan child smiles again. Sponsor an orphan today with Islamic Relief.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Are you banking with convenience, transparency, and flexibility? With Al Barakah Bank's transactional banking account, you can enjoy convenient everyday banking designed around your needs. Benefit from zero fees on point-of-sale transactions and manage your banking easily through Al Barakah's secure mobile banking app and internet banking platform. From everyday payments to managing your personal or business banking, Al Barakah makes banking simple, transparent, and convenient. Visit albarakah.co.za to learn more. Al Barakah, your partner bank. Al Barakah Bank Limited is an authorized financial services and credit provider.
Gaza needs your support more than ever. Homes have been shattered and families have lost everything. With your support, our teams are delivering clean water tankers, feeding the hungry, and assisting orphans who have no one left. Let us give Gaza whatever help we can. African Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salailo Makwidi. Our time is 23 minutes past 8 Central African time, and we're still in conversation with the Good Party's Councillor, Roscoe. And we're asking a very, very important question this morning. We ask whether Cape Town's future is being sold to the highest bidder. This as controversy grows around land and development proposals in the mother city. And at the center of this, and I can see a lot of interest coming from our social media pages, Roscoe, thank you so much for staying with us, by the way, is the United Hertia Schools. Can you give us more insight on them? What is the school all about, and why people should be wary of them? Because as the Good Party, you've objected so strongly to the proposal involving them getting municipal land.
Well, I think that I can't speak much of the school because, obviously I don't want to compromise myself in terms of what I need to, in terms of my objection to what they want to do. But it's well known in media reports that they have disciplined their own students for protesting the genocide in Gaza. Several of their alumni have been credibly accused of going to fight for the IDF. So there's an encouragement of a dual loyalty. And I think that it's in, this thing about where Zionist settler colonialism finds its power in the silence and the consent and the institutional backing of the city of Cape Town and the powers that be. So I don't want to concentrate on the school by itself. I mean, the history is well documented. But what I would say is that the institutional support that it gets from the city of Cape Town, I think is it's very disturbing. For example, in 2022, Jordan Neal Lewis and Alan Winde, the mayor of the city of Cape Town and the premier of the Western Cape, respectively, went on a tour to Johannesburg at to speak at a South African Jewish Board of Deputies event to encourage semigration from Johannesburg to Cape Town. Now, there is a kind of a fashionable semigration that they want to encourage, and then there's a semigration that they say, well, because people are moving into Cape Town, we can't deliver services, completely ignoring the fact that, in fact, Johannesburg has more semigration than the city of Cape Town. So the institutional backing that I found rearing its head in the case of United Herzliya schools, it doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from a long history of favoring and in fact encouraging particular kinds of people to move into the city of Cape Town and accommodating those people. Meanwhile, where if you look at people native to Cape Town, they are being pushed out to the edges, and where development is taking place here in Cape Town to accommodate our residents. I just want to diverge from that point quickly to go back to the housing crisis. The city has passed the building of affordable rental flats in the almost like backyard flats, but where they've approved it almost matches exactly the apartheid map. So you cannot build these units in areas that are leafy, Rondebosch, Claremont. If you have property there, you can only build it where there is already overcrowding. Now, the apartheid areas in Cape Town, if you're looking at like the townships and you look at Mitchell's Plain and the Cape Flats, crime is a function of overcrowding and poor social conditions and poor infrastructure there. Now they are further densifying what is already a dense area, giving planning permission to micro developers to build even more flats in their houses to regularize that. But it reinforces apartheid. And it's important to link these things when we're talking about apartheid here in South Africa, historically in Cape Town. It also echoes overseas to the apartheid, the genocide, and the settlers' colonial expansionism that is occurring, we see in Syria, in Lebanon, and in Gaza. So it's very, very important to link these two struggles. And that's why I think people are very rightfully sensitized to issues like Herzliya, putting up fences, unlawfully putting up private property signs when in fact that has not been passed by council, by anyone in fact. It's the gumption, it's the entitlement, and it's the victimhood mentality of the entitlement to just take and feel that they can get what belongs to them. And I think that must be resisted.
I'm getting a question here from one of our listeners, and I think it'll be a great one to answer. This person is saying, I'm arguing that a school's political association should not influence the city's planning decisions. How do you respond to that?
Well, the planning decisions is completely irrational. Like I agree that there should be freedom of choice, freedom of religion. A school should be able to determine its own way that it educates and the culture that it raises its children, but not when it so directly contradicts two things. Number one, the spirit of our constitution, which holds the Republic of South Africa as a unitary state. We shouldn't have dual loyalty to any other country. There's no such thing as APAC here. They can go to America if they want to do that. And then secondly, it's irrational because you're closing public space, something that before then there was no problem. There was no problem with people accessing it. We live side by side. We're a community. We can share resources. There can be a common sense approach. The thing that really sort of I think is very very bad about this case is the entitlement. And it's not about dictating what the school should or shouldn't do. The point is that the culture within the school, which links to a culture of colonial genocide, then deciding that they want it, and the city deciding, no problem, we will bend over backwards, we'll accommodate the lease, And in my sub-council where I sit, I'm the only opposition councillor. In council, the Good Party in the city of Cape Town has 9 councillors, but in that sub-council, it's just the DA. And so you find people just nodding, people just going along with whatever institutional power wants. And my objection in that context was aggressive because I'm the only opposition councillor in that sub-council. And I'm going to resist. I'm going to resist, not on behalf of myself, but on behalf of people who came to me and said, look, this is an issue. Why are they changing the lease conditions? Why wouldn't I be able to access this? And then why do they get their way?
Very, very important. Last 2 questions before I let you go, Roscoe. What does this controversy almost reveal about the DA's broader vision for Cape Town's future? I know you touched on this a bit, but I think it's important to expand on. And also, what practical steps can residents take if they want to join you, they want to oppose this proposal?
Well, the city of Cape Town wants to, we can see, they want to sell all public assets. The Good Hope Centre was sold for 135 million rand in a grotesque auction. And if you look at 135 million, if you look at what the site is with the air rights and the location and everything about that, 135 million in the context of a developer, it's like finding 2 rand on the street. It's nothing really considering what it is. Bellville Velodrome and all these tiny little parcels of land that are being sold, not even sometimes for the highest price, but for as low a price as possible to favor the developer. I would say how people can resist it, and I think this is a very important point. In terms of public participation, we often find that as councillors, if there is no public participation or formal objection, then there's nothing that we can really do about it. And the objections, the public participation comments for items, if there are 2 or 3 objections, that's a lot. So what we have found in this case is that people have been shopping for public support within the school community. So there are 600, I think there's 600 comments in favor of this, and there are, I think, about 400 comments against it. In the context of the last year's city budget had to be changed because we received, I think, 1,600 or a little over 1,000 public comments and objections. That's a lot. So people must comment, they must object for the reasons, but when they object, they must object based on the irrationality of it. Unfortunately, the Democratic Alliance like to pretend that politics is an ideology-free zone so that they continue with their ideology of just selling public assets for private benefit. But you can follow me on my social media. I can tell you what to do, but citizen activism is important. It makes me feel that I am not alone in that sub-council chamber when I've got an army at my back, an army of righteous people who want a future globally for humanity, and particularly in Cape Town for their children who cannot even move out of their house, who have to move back at the age of 35. We are facing an unprecedented housing crisis. And Mayor Jordan Neal-Lewis has long had his head in the sand, expecting the citizens to just swallow these mendacious stories about how there is no land, how there is no money, how there's nothing they can do about it. If we put our minds to voting,
we're going to have to leave it there, Roscoe. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but thank you so much for joining us. And I think for unpacking what is a very, very important conversation when it comes to the city of Cape Town. And I hope we chat again soon on developments on this. Really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
There you go. That was Roscoe Palm, City of Cape Town Councillor for the Good Party, discussing the controversy surrounding the proposed transfer of municipal land to the United Hersleya schools and just the broader debate of who benefits from Cape Town's public assets. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We'll turn our attention to the Middle East, where a fragile ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon is once again tested. More on that after this.